Admiral Jake Morrison stood at the command center of Luna Station, watching the dark space beyond Earth's moon. His coffee had gone cold hours ago, but he did not notice. Something was coming. The deep space sensors had been picking up strange readings for the past 3 days. "Sir, we have a contact," called Lieutenant Amy Clark from her station. "It's big, really big." Jake walked over to look at her screen. The object was massive, easily 10 times larger than Earth's biggest warship. It moved slowly but steadily toward the inner solar system. Its design was unlike anything humans had ever built. Sharp angles and glowing lines covered its dark hull. "Send a message to President Carter," Jake said. "Tell her we have visitors." On Earth, President Lisa Carter was in her office in Geneva when the call came. She had been expecting this day for years. Ever since first contact with the galactic hegemony 50 years ago, she knew it would eventually come to this. The hegemony controlled thousands of star systems across the galaxy. They were powerful and they did not like independence. Most alien races had joined them willingly or been forced to submit. Humans were different. They had said no and kept saying no for 5 decades. "Captain Blake, respond to that ship," Jake ordered through the communications system. Captain Ryan Blake commanded the UES Defiance, one of Earth's newest destroyers. He was patrolling the outer edge of the solar system when the alien ship appeared. Ryan had fought pirates and raiders before, but nothing had prepared him for this moment. "Unknown vessel, this is Captain Ryan Blake of the United Earthship Defiance. Please identify yourself and state your purpose in our system." The response came quickly. The voice was cold and mechanical, speaking perfect English through some kind of translation device. "I am War Commander Thexval of the Galactic Hegemony. We bring a message for your species. Prepare to receive our terms." Ryan felt his heart beat faster. He had read the reports about what happened to other worlds when the hegemony came calling. Very few had survived to tell their stories. The alien ship stopped just outside Mars' orbit. It was close enough to be seen clearly now. The massive vessel looked like a dark metal mountain floating in space. Weapon ports covered its surface like angry eyes. "Humans of Earth," the voice continued, now broadcasting on all frequencies. "Your time of independence is over. The galactic hegemony has been patient with your species. We allowed you to spread to other worlds. We watched as you built ships and weapons. This was a mistake." On Luna Station, Jake gathered his senior officers. Commander Sarah Mitchell had just arrived from the outer colonies with disturbing news. Hegemony ships had been spotted near several human settlements. "They're not just here," Sarah reported. "We've got reports from New Boston, Kepler Station, and the mining colonies. Hegemony fleets are moving into position around every major human world." Jake nodded grimly. This was not a negotiation. This was the setup for an invasion. Back on Earth, President Carter called an emergency meeting. Defense Secretary Kate Williams arrived first, followed by General Pete Robinson of the Colonial Marines. The 3 leaders gathered in the secure conference room deep beneath the government building. "They want us to surrender," Carter said, reading from the message that had just been received. "Complete surrender. We dismantle our fleet, abandon our colonies, and submit to their rule." "What's the alternative?" asked Kate. "They destroy us," General Robinson answered. "Every human world. They call it cleansing the sector of rebellious elements." The ultimatum was simple and terrible. Humanity had 72 hours to accept hegemony rule or face total destruction. The message included recordings from other worlds that had refused. The images were not pleasant to watch. Captain Blake moved his ship closer to the alien vessel, trying to get better sensor readings. What he found was disturbing. The hegemony ship carried enough firepower to destroy entire cities. Worse, his sensors detected at least 50 smaller ships hiding behind the larger one. "This is just the advance force," he reported to Luna Station. "They're showing us a fraction of their real strength." President Carter spent the next 6 hours in meetings with world leaders, military commanders, and civilian advisors. Some argued for surrender. The hegemony was simply too powerful to fight. Humanity had been in space for less than a century. How could they stand against an empire that had existed for thousands of years? Others disagreed. Admiral Morrison was the loudest voice for resistance. He had studied every piece of intelligence about the hegemony for decades. He knew their tactics, their technology, and their weaknesses. They expect us to fold like every other species, Jake argued. But we're not like the others. We don't give up. We adapt. We fight dirty when we have to. Dr. Helen Torres, the head of military research, brought classified files to the meeting. She showed them projects that had been running in secret for years, weapons and ships that the hegemony knew nothing about. We're not as helpless as they think, she said quietly. As the deadline approached, human colonies across the galaxy reported the same thing. Hegemony fleets were taking positions around every human world. The aliens were confident this would be quick and easy. They were wrong. President Carter made her decision with 8 hours left on the ultimatum. She called together the leaders of every human world for a video conference. Colonists, miners, soldiers, and civilians all listened as their president spoke. 50 years ago, we met the hegemony and chose freedom over safety. Today, they ask us to give up that freedom. They promise us peace if we surrender our independence. They offer us survival if we abandon our dreams. Carter paused, looking directly into the camera. But we are human. We crossed oceans when others feared to leave the shore. We reached for the stars when others were content with the ground. We have never bowed to those who would make us slaves, and we will not start now. The response from the colonies was immediate. From the mining stations of the asteroid belt to the farming worlds of distant stars, the answer was the same. Humanity would fight. War Commander Thexaval received Earth's response exactly 72 hours after delivering the ultimatum. The message was short and came directly from President Carter. The United Earth government rejects your demands. We choose to stand, not just for Earth, but for every species that dreams of freedom. If you want our worlds, come and take them. The alien commander was surprised. In 300 years of conquest, only a handful of species had chosen to fight. Most of those had been primitive worlds with limited technology. None had survived longer than a few months. Humans were different, but Thexval did not think they were different enough to matter. He had seen their ships and weapons. They were impressive for such a young species, but they were no match for hegemony technology. Very well, he transmitted back to Earth. You have chosen destruction. We shall oblige you. Prepare for cleansing. As the alien fleet began to move toward Earth, Admiral Morrison activated a communication system that had been waiting in standby mode for 50 years. Across human space, hidden receivers picked up his signal. All commands. This is Admiral Morrison. Humanity is at war. Execute Operation Dark Star. Repeat, execute Operation Dark Star immediately. In secret bases and hidden shipyards throughout the galaxy, lights began to turn on. Engines that had been cold for years started to warm up. The Black Fleet was awakening. The hegemony had demanded Earth surrender. Instead, they had awakened, something that had been waiting in the darkness, something they did not know existed. The real war was about to begin. Commander Alex Turner had been waiting in the darkness for 3 years. His ship, the UES Shadow, hung motionless in the asteroid field beyond Neptune. Around him, dozens of other vessels waited in perfect silence. They were the Black Fleet, humanity's secret weapon. When Admiral Morrison's signal reached them, Alex felt his heart race. After decades of preparation, Operation Dark Star was finally beginning. He opened a secure channel to his crew. All hands, this is the commander. We are now at war with the galactic hegemony. Power up all systems. Prepare for immediate departure. The shadow came alive around him. Lights flickered on throughout the ship. The quantum drive began its startup sequence. These were not ordinary human ships. They had been built in secret using technology taken from captured alien vessels and improved with human engineering. Captain Sarah Mitchell commanded the UES Ghost from her hiding place inside Jupiter's atmosphere. Her ship and 20 others had been waiting there for years, using the gas giant's radiation to mask their presence. When the activation signal came, she smiled grimly. Finally, she said to her first officer, I was starting to think this day would never come. The Ghost was one of the newest ships in the Black Fleet. It could move faster than anything the hegemony had ever built. Its weapons were designed to punch through alien shields like they were made of paper. But most importantly, it was completely invisible to enemy sensors when running silent. Dr. Helen Torres stood in the command center of Research Station Prometheus, hidden deep inside an asteroid near the edge of the solar system. Around her, scientists and engineers worked frantically to complete the final preparations for humanity's secret weapons. "How long until the Nova cannon is ready?" she asked her assistant, Dr. Marcus Lee. 6 hours for the first unit, Marcus replied. 12 hours for the backup. The power requirements are enormous, but we can do it. The Nova cannon was humanity's ultimate weapon. It could destabilize a star, causing it to explode or collapse. It was a weapon of last resort, but its very existence changed everything. The hegemony thought they could destroy human worlds without consequence. They were about to learn otherwise. Back near Mars, War Commander Thexval watched his sensors with growing confusion. New contacts were appearing throughout the solar system. Ships that had not been there moments before were suddenly powering up and moving into formation. "Where did these vessels come from?" he demanded of his tactical officer. "Unknown, Commander. They appear to be using advanced stealth technology. Our sensors show at least 200 additional human ships." Thexval felt something he had not experienced in decades. Uncertainty. The intelligence reports had indicated that humanity possessed perhaps 50 military vessels. Now he was looking at 4 times that number, and many of them were larger and more advanced than anything in the hegemony files. Captain Ryan Blake received new orders from Admiral Morrison. Instead of retreating from the alien fleet, he was to advance. The plan was simple but dangerous. Human ships would not fight the traditional way. They would use speed, stealth, and surprise to hit the enemy where they were weakest. "All ships, this is Admiral Morrison." The communication came through clearly. "The hegemony expects us to meet them in open battle. They want us to line up, our ships against theirs, and trade fire until one side is destroyed. We will not give them that satisfaction." Ryan smiled as he listened to the battle plan. It was typically human. Instead of playing by the enemy's rules, they would make up their own. Commander Turner led the first strike. 20 ships from the Black Fleet emerged from their hiding places and accelerated toward the hegemony force at incredible speed. Their quantum drives allowed them to move faster than anything the aliens had ever encountered. The attack came without warning. Turner's ships appeared on the enemy sensors for only seconds before they opened fire. Human weapons, improved with 50 years of captured alien technology, tore through hegemony shields. 3 alien cruisers exploded before they could even begin to respond. "What are these weapons?" Thexval shouted as his flagship shook under the impact of human fire. "Our shields should stop anything they possess." But human engineers had learned much from studying captured hegemony technology. They had found the frequencies that disrupted alien shields. They had developed new types of missiles that could adapt to enemy defenses. Most importantly, they had created weapons that the hegemony had never seen before and did not know how to stop. Captain Mitchell brought her squadron out of Jupiter's atmosphere like ghosts emerging from a storm. The Ghost and its sister ships moved in perfect coordination, their engines silent, their hulls invisible to enemy sensors. They struck a hegemony supply convoy that was moving toward Earth, destroying every ship before any of them could send a distress signal. On Earth, the population mobilized for total war. President Carter addressed the world once again, this time from a secure bunker beneath the Swiss mountains. "Citizens of Earth and all human colonies, we face the greatest challenge in our species' history. The hegemony believes we will break under pressure. They think we will surrender when we see their power. They are wrong." Across the planet, factories that had been building civilian goods switched to military production. Shipyards that had been making cargo vessels began constructing warships. The entire human economy transformed overnight into a war machine. Engineer Marcus Lee led teams of workers who converted orbital stations into weapons platforms. Mining equipment became missile launchers. Communication satellites were fitted with defensive systems. Even civilian ships were armed and pressed into service as scouts and supply vessels. But the most important work was happening in secret laboratories around the solar system. Dr. Amy Rodriguez and her team had been developing combat applications for human medical technology. They created nanobots that could repair ship damage in real time. They designed suits that could keep soldiers fighting even after taking injuries that would kill most aliens. The hegemony struck back with fury. War Commander Thexval called for reinforcements and received them. A fleet of 50 more ships arrived from the nearest hegemony base. These were not exploration vessels or patrol ships. They were warships designed for one purpose: destroying entire worlds, humans of Earth. Thexval broadcast on all frequencies. You have chosen to resist. You have destroyed our ships and killed our crews. For this, you will pay the ultimate price. We are targeting your outer colonies first. Watch them burn, and know that Earth will follow. The alien fleet split into smaller groups and accelerated toward human settlements throughout the solar system, the mining stations on Ceres, the research facilities on Europa, the growing colony on Mars. All of them were now targets. Admiral Morrison received the tactical reports with growing concern. The Black Fleet had surprised the enemy and won the first battles, but the hegemony was adapting quickly. Their reinforcements were spreading out to attack multiple targets at once. Human forces would have to split up to defend everything. We can't be everywhere at once, Commander Turner reported from the shadow. If we spread our ships too thin, we'll lose everywhere. Then we don't defend everything, Morrison replied. We choose our battles and make them count. The Admiral made the hardest decision of his career. Some colonies would have to be evacuated rather than defended. The smaller outposts and research stations would be abandoned. Human forces would concentrate on protecting the most important settlements while striking back at the enemy's weak points. Captain Blake led the evacuation of Europa Station while Turner's ships provided cover. Thousands of civilians were loaded onto transport ships as hegemony cruisers approached. The operation was completed with minutes to spare, but the station itself was lost when alien weapons turned it into scrap metal. The war was only hours old, but already both sides had learned important lessons. The hegemony had discovered that humans were far more dangerous than they had believed. Human commanders had learned that their enemy was ruthless and would target civilians without hesitation. Dr. Torres completed the first Nova cannon just as reports came in of hegemony attacks. On the outer colonies, the weapon was loaded onto a specially modified ship commanded by Colonel Danny Clark, a veteran of the Colonial Marines. Remember, Torres told him before he departed, this weapon can destroy a star. Use it only if there is no other choice. Clark nodded grimly. He understood the responsibility he carried. The Nova cannon could save humanity, but it could also destroy everything if used incorrectly. As the first day of war ended, both fleets regrouped and prepared for larger battles. The hegemony had lost 20 ships, but still had over 100. Humanity had lost fewer vessels but was heavily outnumbered. However, something had changed in the aliens' approach. War Commander Thexval found himself adapting his tactics to counter human unpredictability. For the first time in his long career, he was fighting an enemy that refused to follow the standard patterns of warfare. Send a message to High Command, he ordered his communications officer. Tell them we need additional reinforcements. These humans are not like the other species we have conquered. They fight differently. They think differently. Captain Ryan Blake watched the hegemony fleet approach Proxima Centauri through his ship's main screen. The alien armada was massive. Over 60 warships moved in perfect formation toward humanity's first interstellar colony. Blake's small force of 12 ships looked tiny in comparison. Captain, we're receiving orders from Admiral Morrison, reported his communications officer. Blake read the message and felt his stomach tighten. They were not retreating. Instead, they would attack the alien fleet using new tactics that had never been tested in real combat. All ships, this is Blake. We're going in fast and hard. Hit their supply ships first, then scatter before they can respond. Remember, we're not trying to win a fair fight. We're trying to hurt them and survive. The human ships accelerated toward the enemy formation at maximum speed. Their quantum drives allowed them to move much faster than traditional vessels. The hegemony sensors detected them, but the alien commanders were confused by the approach pattern. Why are they attacking? War Commander Thexval asked his tactical officer. They are outnumbered 5-1. The answer came seconds later. Blake's ships did not slow down as they approached the alien fleet. Instead, they passed right through the formation, firing at the largest targets as they went. Human missiles found the hegemony supply ships and fuel carriers. 3 massive explosions lit up space as the alien vessels were destroyed. Before the hegemony ships could turn to pursue them, the human vessels had scattered in different directions. Some headed for the asteroid belt. Others dove toward the system's star. A few simply vanished from sensors using advanced stealth technology. "Pursue them," Thexval ordered. But the alien ships were too slow and too clumsy for this kind of warfare. By the time they changed course, the human vessels were gone. Worse, the destroyed supply ships had been carrying fuel and ammunition that the hegemony fleet needed for their planned assault on the colony. Colonel Lisa Hayes led her Marine strike teams on a different kind of mission. While Blake's ships distracted the main enemy fleet, Hayes and 50 Marines used captured alien shuttles to approach a hegemony cruiser. Their uniforms had been modified to look like alien gear, and their shuttles broadcast the correct identification codes. The alien ship's defenses did not fire on them. Hayes smiled grimly as her shuttle landed in the enemy hangar bay. The Marines poured out and began fighting their way toward the ship's command center. Hegemony soldiers were tall and strong, but they were not prepared for human combat tactics. Hayes and her Marines moved fast and hit hard. They used grenades to clear corridors and flamethrowers to destroy alien equipment. Within an hour, they had captured the entire ship. "This is Colonel Hayes to all human forces," she broadcast from the alien command center. "We now have a hegemony cruiser, downloading their navigation data and tactical information. Stand by for intelligence update." The captured data was invaluable. It showed the locations of other hegemony fleets throughout the galaxy. It revealed their communication codes and battle plans. Most importantly, it confirmed what human leaders had suspected. The aliens were attacking human colonies everywhere at the same time. On Earth, the war effort continued to expand. Engineer Marcus Lee had converted Luna City's main factory into a shipyard that produced 1 new warship every day. The vessels were smaller than traditional human ships, but they were fast and heavily armed. "We can't match the hegemony in size," Lee explained to President Carter during her visit to the facility. "But we can build ships that are harder to hit and easier to replace." Dr. Amy Rodriguez had teams of scientists working around the clock to develop new weapons and defenses. Her latest creation was a type of smart ammunition that could change its target in flight. If a missile was aimed at one enemy ship but detected a better target, it would redirect itself automatically. The breakthrough came when Rodriguez combined human-computer technology with captured alien materials. The result was a weapon system that could think and adapt faster than any alien could react. President Carter spent her days coordinating the global war effort and her nights planning for the future. She knew that even if humanity won this war, the galaxy would never be safe. "As long as the hegemony existed, we're not just fighting for survival," she told her cabinet during one late-night meeting. "We're fighting to change the way this galaxy works. No more empires, no more slavery, no more forcing weaker species to submit." The war spread to other star systems as human colonies came under attack. The mining station at Wolf 359 was destroyed, but not before its defenders took 3 enemy ships with them. The research facility at Tau Ceti held out for 6 hours against overwhelming odds, giving its scientists time to evacuate their most important work. Captain Sarah Mitchell received orders to take her squadron to the Beta Eridani system, where humanity's newest colony was under threat. New Austin was home to 50 million people and served as the main supply base for human expansion into that region of space. The enemy force heading for New Austin was unlike anything humans had faced before. These were not ordinary hegemony ships. They were part of the World Breaker fleet, massive vessels designed to crack planets and sterilize entire solar systems. "How are we supposed to fight those things?" asked Mitchell's first officer as they watched the alien dreadnoughts approach the colony. "Very carefully," Mitchell replied. And with a lot of help, Commander Alex Turner brought 30 ships from the Black Fleet to join Mitchell's defense of New Austin. Together, they had less than 50 vessels to face the enemy's 20 massive dreadnoughts and their escort ships. The battle began badly for the humans. The World Breaker ships had shields that could stop anything in the human arsenal. Their weapons could destroy human vessels with single shots. Within the first hour of fighting, Turner lost 8 ships and Mitchell lost 6. But the humans adapted quickly. Instead of fighting the dreadnoughts directly, they focused on the smaller escort ships. They used the colony's orbital platforms as cover and launched surprise attacks from the asteroid belt surrounding the system. Dr. Torres arrived with the first Nova cannon, just as the battle reached its most desperate point. The weapon was mounted on a heavily modified human ship commanded by Colonel Danny Clark. The device was untested in combat, but it was their only hope of stopping the Worldbreaker fleet. "Target the largest dreadnought," Torres told Clark over the communications system. "If this works, it should cause a chain reaction that damages the other ships." Clark's ship approached the enemy formation using stealth technology. The Nova cannon required him to get very close to the target to be effective. As alien weapons fired around him, Clark held his course steady. "Firing Nova cannon," he announced. The weapon released a beam of energy that hit the hegemony dreadnought's hull and penetrated deep into its structure. For a moment, nothing seemed to happen. Then the alien ship began to glow from the inside. The explosion was visible from 3 star systems away. The massive dreadnought simply came apart, releasing energy that had been stored in its power cores. 2 nearby ships were destroyed by the blast, and the rest of the Worldbreaker fleet was forced to retreat. New Austin was saved, but the cost had been enormous. Half of Turner's Black Fleet squadron was gone. Mitchell had lost most of her ships. Colonel Clark's vessel had been destroyed in the Nova cannon blast, taking him and his crew with them. The victory at Beta Eridani changed the war. For the first time, human forces had stopped a major hegemony assault. The aliens began to realize that this would not be a quick conquest. War Commander Thexval received new orders from Hegemony High Command. He was to stop trying to capture human worlds intact. Instead, he was authorized to use the most destructive weapons in the alien arsenal. Any human colony that resisted would be completely destroyed. "Send a message to all human settlements," Thexval ordered. "Tell them they have one final chance to surrender. Any world that continues to resist will be burned to ash." The response from human colonies was swift and uniform. Not a single settlement agreed to surrender. From the mining stations of the Outer Rim to the farming worlds near Earth, the answer was the same. Humanity would fight to the end. Admiral Morrison received reports of new enemy movements throughout human space. The hegemony was bringing in reinforcements from across the galaxy. More Worldbreaker ships were coming, along with weapons that could sterilize entire planets. "How many ships do we have left?" Morrison asked his staff. 300 in the Black Fleet, 200 regular Navy vessels, and about 100 converted civilian ships," came the reply. Morrison looked at the tactical display showing enemy fleet movements. The hegemony had over 2,000 ships in the region, and more arriving every day. By any reasonable calculation, humanity was doomed. But Morrison had never been a reasonable man. He activated a communication channel that reached every human ship and station in the galaxy. "This is Admiral Morrison to all human forces. The enemy thinks they can break us with superior numbers. They believe we will surrender when we see their full strength. They are wrong. We are human. We have never been reasonable. We have never accepted the impossible. Today, we show the galaxy what humanity can do when pushed to the wall." Commander Kelly Stone stood on the bridge of her diplomatic ship, the UES Harmony, as it approached the crystal cities of Viridian Prime. 6 months had passed since the war began, and everything had changed. What started as humanity's desperate fight for survival had become something much larger. The Viridians were the first alien species to openly join the human rebellion against the hegemony. Their crystal-based technology was completely different from anything humans had seen before. Their ships could absorb energy weapons and redirect the power to their own systems. "Commander Stone, we welcome you to our world," came the musical voice of crystal singer Veltar, the Viridian leader. "Your species has given us something we thought was lost forever: hope." Kelly smiled as she looked at the magnificent crystal structures that covered the planet's surface. Each building was grown rather than built, shaped by Viridian minds that could manipulate their crystalline environment with thought alone. "We're honored by your alliance," Kelly replied. "But we need more than hope. We need ships, weapons, and warriors willing to fight." The Viridians had been enslaved by the hegemony for over 100 years. Their people had been forced to grow crystals for alien technology. Their ships had been destroyed. Their culture had been suppressed. But they had never forgotten how to fight. Captain Sarah Mitchell commanded a joint human-Viridian fleet that struck at hegemony supply lines throughout the sector. The alien ships were beautiful to watch in battle. They moved like living things, flowing around enemy fire and striking with precise energy beams. "The hegemony doesn't know how to fight us anymore," Mitchell reported to Admiral Morrison. "Their tactics are designed for species that think like they do. Humans are unpredictable, and Viridians are completely alien to their understanding." The war had spread to dozens of star systems. Other species were beginning to rebel as news of human victories reached them. The aquatic cetaceans of Kepler 442b sent their bioships to join the alliance. The warrior poets of the Alterian Commonwealth emerged from hiding to strike at hegemony outposts. Dr. Helen Torres worked frantically to coordinate technology sharing between the allied species. Each race brought something unique to the fight. Viridian crystal technology could store and redirect energy. Cetacean bioships could repair themselves and adapt to new threats. Alterian weapons could phase through enemy shields. "We're creating something the galaxy has never seen before," Torres explained to President Carter during one of their regular briefings. "A true alliance of equals, each contributing their strengths to the common cause." But the hegemony was not sitting idle. War Commander Thexavel had been replaced by Supreme Admiral Kothmore, a veteran of 1,000 conquests. The new commander brought with him the most feared weapon in the alien arsenal, the Star Killer. Commander Alex Turner received intelligence about the massive weapon from a captured hegemony officer. The Star Killer was a construct the size of a small moon, capable of destroying entire solar systems. It was heading for the Sol system with an escort of 500 warships. "They're going to destroy Earth's sun," Turner reported to the Emergency Council meeting on Luna Station. "Not just Earth, the entire solar system. It's meant to be an example that will terrify other species into submission." Admiral Morrison studied the tactical data with growing concern. The Star Killer was too large and too well defended for conventional attack. Even the Nova cannons would be useless against its massive bulk and powerful shields. "We need to get inside that thing," Morrison decided. "Find its weak points and destroy it from within." The plan that emerged was desperate even by human standards. While the Allied fleets engaged the hegemony escort ships, a small strike team would infiltrate the Star Killer itself. The mission would be led by Commander Turner, with Dr. Torres providing technical expertise and Colonel Danny Clark's replacement, Major Jake Foster, leading the ground assault team. President Carter made the hardest decision of her presidency. Earth's population would be evacuated to the outer colonies while the military prepared for the final battle. Luna City became a massive refugee center as transport ships carried millions of civilians to safety. "We're not abandoning Earth," Carter explained in her address to the nation. "We're protecting our people while our military protects our world. No matter what happens, humanity will survive." The evacuation took weeks to complete. Cargo ships, passenger liners, and even converted warships carried Earth's population to colonies throughout human space. The planet that had been humanity's home for millions of years was left nearly empty, except for military personnel and essential workers. Captain Ryan Blake, now commanding the new UES Defiance II, led the advanced scouts that tracked the approaching Starkiller fleet. The massive construct was even more terrifying up close. It bristled with weapons and was surrounded by a cloud of defensive ships. "It's not just a weapon," Blake reported. "It's a mobile fortress. The thing has its own shipyards and manufacturing facilities. They could build an entire fleet inside that monster." The Allied forces gathered at the edge of the Sol system for the final confrontation. Human ships from the Black Fleet, Viridian crystal vessels, cetacean bioships, and Alterian phase fighters formed the largest multi-species fleet in galactic history. Admiral Morrison addressed the combined fleet from his flagship, the UES Victory, Ships from a dozen different species listened as the human commander spoke through translation devices. Citizens of the galaxy, today we face the ultimate test. The hegemony brings their most powerful weapon to destroy not just Earth, but the hope of freedom itself. They want to show the galaxy that resistance is futile. We are here to prove them wrong. The battle began when Supreme Admiral Kothmore's fleet entered the outer solar system. The Star Killer moved slowly but inexorably toward the sun, while its escort ships spread out to engage the Allied forces. Captain Mitchell led the Viridian squadrons against the enemy's left flank. The crystal ships absorbed massive amounts of enemy fire and redirected it back at their attackers. Hegemony cruisers found themselves destroyed by their own weapons as the Viridians turned their energy against them. The cetacean bioships moved, like living creatures through the battle. Their organic hulls could regenerate damage in real time, making them nearly impossible to destroy. They flowed around enemy formations and struck at weak points with surgical precision. But the real surprise came from the Alterian phase fighters. These small ships could pass through solid matter, allowing them to fly inside enemy vessels and attack from within. Hegemony ships began exploding without warning as Alterian weapons struck their internal systems. Turner's infiltration team launched from a modified human destroyer that had been disguised as a piece of space debris. Their small ship drifted toward the Starkiller while the massive battle raged around them. "Remember," Torres said over the team's communication system, "we need to reach the central power core. If we can overload it, the explosion should destroy the entire construct." The team's ship was captured by the Starkiller's tractor beams exactly as planned. They allowed themselves to be brought aboard the massive weapon, then fought their way through corridors that seemed to stretch for miles. Major Foster led the combat team while Turner and Torres searched for the power core. The interior of the Starkiller was like a city in space, with thousands of hegemony personnel working to maintain the massive weapon. "The power source is a controlled black hole," Torres explained as they fought their way deeper into the construct. "If we can destabilize the containment field, the gravitational collapse will tear this thing apart." Outside, the space battle reached its climax. The Allied fleet was holding its own, but the Starkiller was approaching the sun. Once it reached the proper position, it would fire its main weapon and destroy the entire solar system. Captain Blake led a desperate assault on the Starkiller's weapon array, hoping to buy more time for Turner's team. His ship dove through clouds of enemy fire to strike at the massive construct's surface guns. "All ships concentrate fire on the weapon ports," Blake ordered. "We have to give Turner more time." Inside the Starkiller, Turner's team reached the central chamber where the controlled black hole provided power for the entire construct. The chamber was massive, with the black hole suspended in a web of energy fields at its center. "There," Torres pointed to a control station near the chamber's wall. "If we can overload those containment generators, the black hole will break free and consume the entire structure." Major Foster and his Marines held off waves of hegemony security forces, while Torres worked frantically at the alien controls. Turner provided cover fire as enemy soldiers poured into the chamber. "How much longer?" Turner shouted over the sound of weapons fire. "Almost there," Torres replied. "Just a few more seconds." The containment field began to fluctuate as Torres overloaded the generators. The black hole started to expand, its gravitational pull affecting everything in the chamber. Equipment began falling toward the center and the station's artificial gravity failed. "Everyone out!" Torres yelled. "This whole place is going to collapse." But as the team tried to escape, Torres realized she would not make it. Someone had to stay behind to complete the overload sequence. Without hesitation, she sealed herself in the control room. The news of the Starkiller's destruction spread across the galaxy like wildfire. On thousands of worlds, species that had been enslaved by the hegemony for centuries began to whisper about rebellion. The impossible had happened. The Empire's ultimate weapon had been defeated by a coalition of free species. Overlord Vexthak, supreme ruler of the galactic hegemony, stood in his throne room on the capital world of Andromedus Prime. Around him, his advisors argued about how to respond to the disaster at Sol. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded massive retaliation. "Silence," Vexthak commanded, his voice cutting through the debate. The humans have shown the galaxy that we can be defeated. This cannot be allowed to stand. I will personally lead our remaining fleets to destroy every human world and their allies. The Overlord was ancient, even by alien standards. He had ruled the hegemony for over 1,000 years and had never faced a serious challenge to his power. The idea that primitive humans could threaten his empire was unthinkable. Admiral Jake Morrison received intelligence reports about massive hegemony fleet movements. The aliens were gathering ships from across the galaxy, preparing for one final assault that would either crush the rebellion or destroy the empire in the attempt. They're bringing everything, Morrison told the Allied Council meeting on Luna Station. Over 3,000 ships, including their entire battle fleet. If we lose this fight, there won't be another chance. President Lisa Carter looked around, the conference table at the representatives of 24 species. What had started as humanity's desperate fight for survival had become a galaxy-wide revolution. The Free Species Alliance now included races from every corner of known space. We've come too far to back down now, Carter said firmly. Every species here has paid a price for freedom. We honor that sacrifice by seeing this through to the end. Commander Alex Turner had spent months preparing for this moment. The Black Fleet had been rebuilt and expanded with ships donated by allied species. Human stealth technology had been combined with Viridian crystal armor and cetacean biosystems to create vessels unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The plan is simple, Turner explained to his squadron commanders. We hit their command. Ship first. Cut off the head and the body will follow, but remember, Overlord Vexthak is no ordinary enemy. He survived 1,000 years of warfare. He won't go down easily. Captain Ryan Blake commanded the new flagship UES Liberty, a massive vessel built with technology from all the allied species. Its hull was grown from cetacean biomaterials that could repair themselves. Its weapons were powered by Viridian crystals that could store and focus energy with perfect efficiency. All ships, this is Blake, he broadcast to the Allied fleet. Today, we end an empire that has terrorized the galaxy for millennia. Today, we prove that cooperation is stronger than conquest. The final battle began at the edge of the Sol system, as Overlord Vexthak's massive fleet arrived. The alien armada was the largest military force ever assembled in galactic history. Thousands of ships spread across space like a metal cloud, their weapons trained on the smaller allied fleet. Humans and their allies, Vexthak's voice boomed across all communication channels. You have caused enough trouble. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick. Resist and we will make your suffering last for generations. Captain Sarah Mitchell, now commanding a mixed squadron of human and Alterian ships, smiled grimly as she heard the ultimatum. Same offer they gave us at the beginning, she said to her crew. I think we gave them our answer already. The battle erupted across the entire solar system. Hegemony dreadnoughts traded fire with allied battle groups, while smaller ships darted between the giants like insects around sleeping beasts. The space around Earth lit up with weapons fire and explosions. The Viridian crystal ships formed the Alliance's defensive core, their faceted hulls absorbing enemy fire and redirecting it back at their attackers. Hegemony ships found themselves destroyed by their own weapons as the Viridians turned their energy against them. Cetacean bioships flowed through the battle like living creatures, their organic hulls regenerating damage faster than the enemy could inflict it. They struck at hegemony vessels with precision, targeting weak points in vital systems. The Alterian phase fighters were nearly impossible to stop. They passed through enemy shields and hulls as if they were empty space, striking at internal systems and escaping before the aliens could respond. But the hegemony fleet was enormous, and for every ship they lost, 10 more took its place. The Allied forces found themselves slowly pushed back toward Earth, despite their technological advantages. Turner led a strike force of Black Fleet ships toward Vexthak's flagship, a massive dreadnought called the Iron Throne. The ship was protected by layers of escorts and defensive screens, but Turner's vessels used their stealth technology to slip past the outer defenses. Target the command tower, Turner ordered as his ships emerged from stealth directly above the alien flagship. Everything we have. The Black Fleet ships opened fire with weapons that combined human engineering with alien technology. Quantum torpedoes tore through the dreadnought's shields while phased plasma beams melted its armor. The Iron Throne shuddered under the assault but continued to fight. Overlord Vexthak felt his flagship shake around him and smiled coldly. These humans were resourceful, but they could not match thousands of years of hegemony military experience. All ships converge on the human stealth vessels, he commanded. Destroy them completely. Hundreds of hegemony ships turned their weapons on Turner's force. The Black Fleet ships scattered, but several were caught and destroyed before they could escape. Turner's own ship, the Shadow, was badly damaged and falling toward Earth's atmosphere. Major Jake Foster, who had taken command of the Marine assault teams after his predecessor's death, led a desperate boarding action against the Iron Throne. His shuttles, disguised as debris from destroyed ships, drifted close to the massive dreadnought and attached to its hull. "Remember," Foster told his Marines as they cut through the alien ship's armor, "our job is to reach the bridge and capture or kill the Overlord. Nothing else matters." The Marines fought their way through the Iron Throne's corridors, facing hegemony, elite guards armed with the best weapons in the Empire. The aliens were taller and stronger than humans, but the Marines had better tactics and superior determination. Foster's team reached the bridge just as Admiral Morrison's main fleet arrived from the outer system. The Admiral had been holding his reserves in case the battle went badly, but now he committed everything to the final assault. "All ships, this is Morrison," the Admiral broadcast. "The future of the galaxy is decided here and now. Show them what free beings can accomplish when they fight together." The Allied fleet struck the hegemony formation with everything they had. Human ships armed with Nova weapons tore through enemy lines. Viridian crystal vessels absorbed massive amounts of fire and redirected it at their attackers. Cetacean bioships regenerated damage and kept fighting when they should have been destroyed. On the Iron Throne's bridge, Overlord Vexthak faced Major Foster in personal combat. The alien ruler was ancient but still deadly, his 4 arms wielding energy weapons that could cut through human armor. "You cannot defeat me, human," Vexthak hissed as they fought. "I have conquered 1,000 species. I have ruled for a millennium. You are nothing." But Foster had been trained by the best human warriors and equipped with technology from allied species. His armor was grown from cetacean biomaterials that could absorb energy weapons. His weapons were powered by Viridian crystals that never ran out of power. "Maybe," Foster replied, dodging the alien's attack and striking back with his plasma sword. "But I'm fighting for something you'll never understand, freedom." The duel raged across the bridge while the space battle continued outside. Through the main screen, they could see Allied ships pressing their attack against increasingly desperate hegemony forces. Captain Blake's Liberty led the final assault on the Iron Throne itself. The massive Allied flagship fired every weapon it had at the hegemony dreadnought, punching holes in its hull and setting off internal explosions. "Hull breach on all decks," reported Blake's tactical officer. "Their shields are down, their weapons are offline." On the bridge, Foster's plasma sword found its mark. Overlord Vexthak, supreme ruler of the galactic hegemony, fell with a look of shock on his ancient face. The tyrant who had enslaved countless species was dead. "This is Major Foster to all Allied ships," he broadcast from the Iron Throne's communication system. "The Overlord is dead. Repeat, Vexthak is dead." The news spread through both fleets instantly. Hegemony ships began to slow their fire as their crews realized their supreme leader was gone. Without the Overlord's iron will holding them together, the alien empire began to crumble. "All hegemony vessels, this is Admiral Morrison," the human commander broadcast. "Your Overlord is dead. Your empire is finished. Surrender now and you will be treated with mercy. Continue fighting and you will share his fate." The response was immediate. Hegemony ships throughout the battle zone began transmitting surrender signals. Some tried to flee, but they were hunted down by Allied forces. Within hours, the most powerful military force in galactic history had been defeated.